Welcome to the most northerly doctor in Britain podcast, produced by Michelle Langthorne. That's me. We will dive into insightful diary extracts recorded by Dr. Anne Marshall as she documents her extraordinary time as a sole GP, providing routine and emergency care to the 632 inhabitants of Unst, located in Shetland. We listen together and then the reflection and conversation starts. Episode 2. Nearly there.
Hi Michelle, this is Anne. It's the 21st of September and we're finally here in Aberdeen, just sat in the car on the dockside waiting to get the Northlink ferry to Lerwick, Shetland. I can't actually believe that we've got to this point. It's been a year in the planning and here we are. And as we've sort of driven over from the Hebrides, so we did the Hebredian Way last week on our bikes as a bit of a holiday before we headed up to Aberdeen. And as we've driven over and got closer and closer to Aberdeen, the butterflies in my stomach have started appearing. I'm getting quite anxious, quite nervous about what's to come. I suppose it's the unknown. I've got no idea really what to expect, what the team is going to be like, who I'm going to be working with, what the computer system is like. I've got this irrational fear of not being able to sort out the computer. Am I going to have to dispense medicines? Am I going to have to count up pills and put labels on boxes, which I don't think my menopausal brain is going to cope with very well? Am I going to come across clinical scenarios that I won't know what to do with? And am I going to be able to speak to people, to get advice? So I've got lots of worries going round and round in my head. I didn't sleep very well last night, and I'm not sure we're going to sleep that well tonight on this ferry. We've got a cabin. It's 15 hours. It leaves at 5 this evening and gets in tomorrow morning at 7:30. So it's a long old crossing. Sorry, it's quite noisy here on the quayside. So tomorrow, after arrival on Shetland in the morning, we're going to get another ferry over to the island of Walser. I'm going to go and meet a practice manager in a practice over there who may well be interested in having locums in the future. And then we're going to explore a bit around Lerwick, stay overnight in a hotel in Lerwick before heading up to Unst on Saturday. So 2 more ferries before finally arriving at our cottage for 5 nights. It'll be nice to be in the same bed every night. Over the last 14 nights we slept in a different bed every single night, which has been a good adventure, but it will be nice to have a little bit of stability and consistency over the next few days. So I suppose my feelings right now are a mixture of fear, anxiety, massive imposter syndrome, thinking, am I going to be able to do this? I can do the GP bits, but am I going to be able to do the bits that I'm not sure about or that are new? Once you've been in a practice for a long time and you've been doing the same job day in, day out for years, change becomes quite difficult and quite scary. And I've got to somehow try and really enjoy the experience in between the fear and get something out of it. And hopefully I can give something back to the people of Shetland. So here goes. Can't wait.
So the second audio diary of Dr. Anne Marshall's Unst adventure. We've just listened to it. You are in Aberdeen, I think, on the quayside. Can you remember the name of the quay?
Oh, I can't, but I do remember it was opposite a very nice big shopping centre that we'd just been into to buy a couple of warm jumpers before our journey.
Now, the diary is very much, I thought, a mixture of I can hear you've had a lovely time, but all the way through it, again, there's that sort of anxiety, that build up to you getting to Unst, not Unst, as I think you pronounced again,
That's
Anne. Were you on the ferry when you recorded that?
No, we just sat on the quayside in a queue waiting to board the ferry. So I just took the opportunity to stand out there in the sunshine and just record my thoughts and feelings at that point.
Now, you've done the Hebredian Way, and listeners won't know, but you love cycling, don't you?
That's right. So we thought, well, we're going all that way up north, living on the south coast of England in Dorset. It's actually quite a long way. So why not do the Hebredian Way as well as go to Shetland? Obviously, they're miles apart. But we managed to squeeze it in. We waited to see what the weather was doing before we set off and booked it all. But the weather window was pretty amazing. So we had a fantastic 5 days of cycling from the very south Bartosay Island up to the Isle of Lewis. It was an incredible experience. So glad we did it.
Yeah, I've seen some of the photos. We've gone into tourist territory now.
Sorry.
And no, that was mine. I thought, why not give a lovely shout out to the Hebredian Way? I would think people do it a lot, but it's certainly inspired me to, if not do the cycling side of things, visit sort of Scotland, that part of the world, and Shetland. And I think I was telling you, nothing to do with what you did, Anne, but I got really into, off the back of you doing this, Shetland, the detective series.
Yeah.
And Unst does feature in one of them, and I'm going to find out which one and let you know.
That would be great. I'd love to have a look at that.
We have totally gone off track here, haven't we? Let's get back on track. So you're ready to board the ferry. Now, you mentioned it's a 15-hour journey.
It is. It's quite a trek to get to Shetland if you want to take your car. So the ferry leaves Aberdeen at about 5 o'clock in the evening. It then it goes up the east coast of Scotland and then turns a corner and heads over to Orkney, calls in at Orkney at about 11 o'clock midnight, docks there, and then makes the rest of the journey overnight up to Lerwick on Shetland, and then you dock in Lerwick about 7 in the morning.
Okay. Now, you were lucky, weren't you, with the actual crossing, because it was calm.
We were. It was beautifully calm, so we were incredibly lucky. Because it's not uncommon for the sailings to get cancelled due to the weather and the wind.
Is it quite a luxurious ferry?
I wouldn't say it's luxurious, but I would say it's a slight step up from the cross-channel ferries.
Oh, well, that's actually good, isn't it? You see, you're inspiring me even more to go up there. So you've brought your husband along, and we haven't explored this at all. What made you bring him to? What made you, I mean, obviously you're married, so I kind of get that perhaps sort of including him was a good thing, and you've mentioned in the last episode that he had just retired. I'm just interested, because you could have done this 6 weeks on your own, I guess.
I could have done. I mean, we talked about it and I gave him the option, and we knew that he was going to be retiring from teaching in the July just before we went, and he wanted to be part of the adventure as well. And I think for me, it might have been a step too far to do the whole thing on my own. So it was quite nice for me to go with somebody and just have someone there at the end of the day to go home to. I'm not sure he'd come back again in the future necessarily if I did go back. Certainly not on a regular basis, because it's just so far from our home and such a lot of travel involved.
We've discussed on a number of times, and in this episode as well, the continuing anxiety. How did he deal with that? Did he try and talk you down, give you the confidence? Because you spoke again of imposter syndrome. Did he build you up a little bit in the lead up?
I suppose he didn't pander to my anxieties, really, which is how he tends to deal with these things. Didn't give it the attention, didn't feed it. So and I think he and I both knew that I could do this.
Well, you were absolutely more than capable, but isn't it interesting when you mention at the very end change? And I think for a lot of humans, a reaction to change is this spiralling almost anxiety.
Definitely. Change is unsettling, isn't it? And it's stressful.
But you had bought into this. You knew it was something you wanted to do.
Definitely. I was ready for a bit of change. As I said, after the COVID years, it was just time to shake things up a little bit, and I just wanted to do something different.
I think next week we're going to be exploring your actual arrival to Shetland, but I still, from memory, but we'll find out next week, I don't think you're actually doing it yet.
No, that's right.
But we get to hear about the cottage and things like that.
Yeah. So I did it actually, well, we'll hear about it next week, but I did some shadowing of the outgoing GP, which with hindsight, I'm so glad I did that.
Good. Okay. Well, until next week. Thank you, Anne. This podcast is copyrighted by Michelle Langthorne, and all rights are reserved.